Hey everyone, welcome to another Over a Beer movie review. My name is Rich.
And where to find them.
Hey.
I don't,
I don't know how
I
that
don't
worked, but
I don't know.
that's Nick.
Hey, it's me.
So if you haven't figured out by the title of this, we're reviewing Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. The latest in the Harry Potter universe, so to speak.
So, if you were to go down to your local megaplex, your cinema, could you find fantastic movies?
Yeah, maybe not this one, but
Oh.
there's definitely some fantastic movies playing right now.
Okay.
So as usual, we'll start this review off spoiler-free,
Yeah.
give you an idea of what we thought of it, and then jump into spoilers. So if you haven't seen the movie yet and don't want it spoiled for you, you can stop partway through and come back when you have and see what we thought about
Do that.
the nitty-gritty of this movie.
Do it.
Do it. So what did you think, Nick?
Overall, I really liked it.
Mm.
There's definitely a couple of things that I think are issues with the movie for sure. We'll go over them in spoilers. There's some story issues, and I think that there's also, I think without even spoiling it, it just felt like some of the times, especially maybe in the mid section of the movie, it just felt kind of flat.
Yeah,
Like just
I
something
agree.
about like the way the scenes were even just like happening. It just felt like staged. Like something about it just didn't feel genuine. But there was other parts of the movie where there's a lot of life.
Yeah.
And a lot of that was very, very good. And I think that it expands the mythology of the wizarding world. So if you're a Harry Potter fan, you will definitely like it. I think that one of my biggest negatives about this is I think that the movie leads up to something that I feel like if you are not familiar, not even with just seeing the movies, but you got to be kind of familiar with Harry Potter, like the mythology, the world, for it to even mean anything to you. And I think
Sure.
that was a big mistake.
I agree.
The way that they do it is a mistake, I think. There are ways it could have been better if they had handled it differently. But overall, I like the performances. I like the setting a lot.
I really the world they've set up and they've built and created for the American wizarding world or area is really cool. I think that's the strongest thing this movie does. I do enjoy this movie. I made a joke that this is fantastic. I do enjoy this movie. I think it's good. It's fun. It's worth seeing. But I didn't think it was anything amazing or.
No, I think that it has elements that are on the tip of it, but then it constantly just is like tips back the other way. We can talk a bit about performances. I know my takeaway from something that I saw you post was you didn't really care for Eddie Redmayne.
No, I've never been a huge fan of his, and this one too. I'm just kind of like, And I made a joke on my Facebook that he seems like he's just inches away from turning back into Stephen Hawking most of the movie.
Yeah,
And I don't know too much about what Newt Scamander, or if he really was ever described.
No.
In the books,
in the
or-
books, he is the only time you hear his name is he's the author of one
Okay,
of the textbooks.
I've never delved too far into.
It
the
certainly
mythos
seems
of-
like the performance that he is giving, he's on some sort of a level, like an autism.
Yeah,
like
something.
There's something else going on with that character, and I think that it might be something else that we're going to delve into, maybe if they go into his past at all, and maybe why he was, didn't finish at Hogwarts and things like that.
Sure.
One of my things that I was surprised when they were announced. First of all, I was surprised that they were going to make these movies at all, and I was not excited for it. And
No.
I think that overall, I'm more excited moving forward.
Sure.
But one thing that had surprised me was that they went with that title, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. I was surprised that they didn't even further try and capitalize on the Harry Potter thing by calling it like Newt Scamander and the something and the Fantastic Beasts. And having seen the movie, before I was surprised that they didn't do something like that. And after seeing it, I'm actually happy that they didn't, because he's almost like
No.
he's barely the focus of this
Well, that's the
movie.
whole-
And moving forward, it seems like he'd be even less.
That's kind of one of my biggest problems with this is the Fantastic Beasts storyline is secondary to everything else. Like, I am so much more interested in everything else that's happening in this movie than I am Newt Scamander and his beasts and all that stuff. Like, oh, I'm trying to avoid spoilers too much, but like all of the world they've set up and the back and forth between the like what's the minister,
The
Murska,
Murska.
Murska or something like
Yeah.
that, and these anti. That's not spoiler, really, is it? I mean, you see them
No,
from the
no,
first.
no.
These anti-wizard movements and like this back and forth between
Which
them.
is really interesting. I
Yeah,
thought it was
like
a very
that's
smart
that's the
idea.
kind of stuff that
Yeah.
I was much more interested than just this kind of goofy chase for these creatures, which sometimes is fun and sometimes it kind of falls flat.
Yeah, I thought for the most part pretty fun. I thought definitely with the little Niffler or whatever, I thought
Yeah,
the
I
whole thing was very amusing.
I like
I thought
that.
the sequence with there's a sequence that involves a zoo that I thought was fine, but I really there's also you see it in the trailer at one point. Part of Newt's case is that you can go into, and I really thought that the part where he goes, there's a big sequence involving
Yeah.
going into the case that I thought was actually very well done.
I agree.
Incredibly well done, actually. I think that overall, what we wanted for what I wanted from this, and maybe I don't want to speak for you, I would assume it's the same as wasn't excited for it. I wanted to get excited for it, and then I wanted to subsequently be anticipating at least the next one.
Yeah.
Prove to me, probably step by step, that I need 5 of these movies, but I wanted to get to a point where I was at least feeling like we needed another,
See,
and I feel like I've gotten there at least.
Real. See, leaving this, I was like, I don't need another. Like, this
Not
feels
his story.
well. That's what I'm thinking. I mean, you're setting up this series as Fantastic Beasts and Newt Scamander is the main character. How is that going forward? Like, who is our I'm trying to. I'll just say this: it's a very self-contained story. Do you want to jump into spoilers here?
Yeah, let's move on
Okay.
to spoilers.
So, spoilers from here on out. We both enjoyed it. You'd recommend going to see it,
Yeah.
as would I.
See it in the theater, yeah.
Especially if you're a Harry Potter
For sure.
fan.
I mean, before we even like, if you're a Harry Potter fan and you're like, well, that's not really Harry Potter. There are things that tie back into it for sure. And just like sitting in the theater, having it start, seeing the Warner Brother logo and hearing dun dun dun,
Yeah.
dun, like, and they play it like I think they riff on that theme maybe one other time, but like sitting there seeing it, it was like, oh my god, like we're seeing like another.
That is one
like,
thing
it
that
was,
I
it
did.
was really great.
I did like. This is non-spoilery that I did like about the movie is seeing magic used not in a restrained way. We're out of the schools. We're in the world. You want to use magic however you want to use magic. You use magic. Like it's not
I
in
mean,
that. Like
they're,
you're not allowed
they're
to do
running
this
around New York and they're obliviating to place, and I was
or apparating.
from place to place, and I remember like immediately, like the first time you see it, it's like they didn't do that too much in the other ones. Why
Yeah.
would they do that? And then I remembered, I'm pretty sure that there's a part in one of the books where they explain that it has been outlawed.
Yeah.
Because it was too easily seen and too many wizards were ending up in walls, I think is the quote or something like that. And it's like, wow, so we are in a different age of magic.
Because this
The
is a
setting
period
is
piece,
so
technically.
awesome.
Yeah. I like that
it
it's in the
looked great.
20s. And
Yeah.
Okay, so spoilers here and out. We both liked it. Go see it. Once you've seen it, come back. Watch the rest of this. So from the end, like, his story seems over. Why make him the main character? Because it's like, each Harry Potter film is very self-contained. Each Harry Potter installment is very self-contained, whether it's the book or the movie. But you had that framing device of each school year. This, it's just sort of like, is he going to... So he finishes his book and comes back to America. Which I had another problem with that, too, of, like, there's this little bit of a love interest there at the end that doesn't really feel super...
No,
earned.
that feels very forced.
Yeah.
Whereas I think with what was his name, Kowalski.
Yeah, and
the
sister.
The sister, I thought felt
Yeah,
more
I
genuine.
like both
for
of
sure,
them. I thought
very
their
genuine.
chemistry
And
on screen and...
there was an interesting setup that they mention and they talk about, but early on about how magicians, wizards, can't have relations with muggles
Yeah.
or no mages in this movie. And like they kind of make this thing about how, there's no mage, and then she kind of falls, and the other sister seems very against it at first, and I wish that they had kind of delved into a little bit more of her not being okay with it.
Yeah.
Because that's really interesting. Like that's like white and black. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like
I mean, they could have played more with that. Same as I would have liked to see a little bit more played with like the anti-wizard movement and versus the.
and I think we will get more of that.
I
But the
hope
next
so.
one they've already said is not taking place in America. It takes place in Paris. Which Paris though will be another awesome setting.
Sure,
Like
no, I
1920s
agree.
Paris will be very interesting, very cool.
But
Or
it's just-
1930s, whatever it gets to.
But right now it's still tentatively titled Fantastic Beasts, and we're to find them too.
Yeah,
So it's like what?
but it won't be.
So is it going to be like almost like a Mad Max, where it's just not the story's not really about Newt, it's about Newt going to these different places and the stories that are happening around him?
I think the overarching story is very much going to be about the wizarding world getting to the point where it's at. And also, I think that the Grindelwald character is going to play heavily factor into all of it. And then what I found, I really thought it was very interesting, everything with the Obscurian, or whatever it's
Yeah.
called. Like, that was all awesome with Ezra
And that all
Miller.
looked great too.
It looked fantastic. It was a very interesting idea of like having to suppress yourself to a level of where it burst out. And they talk about that being what happened to Dumbledore's sister, but they never used that word Obscurian
in the
books.
Okay.
In Deathly Hallows.
Okay.
When they talk, that's primarily where you learn about Grindelwald and Dumbledore's relationship, and they had been friends, and they were going to search for the Deathly Hallows together, and then him and his other brother Aberforth, and then they talk about how Dumbledore's sister at a young age had been bullied so much that she suppressed by muggles that she suppressed her magic, and it became he explains that it had become something powerful within her, and it ended up bursting. So that's what happened. And so then you can see, and Grindelwald was there for it, and
Okay.
kind of he accidentally actually kills her in a battle that goes wrong with Dumbledore. And so but he knows about the Obscurian, and you
Yeah,
could
and
see
that's-
why he would be fascinated by it,
Sure.
because that would have already happened at this point in the movie. So I think moving forward that could be really interesting. David Yates, here's a thing for you that I thought was interesting that I
Okay.
read today. David Yates has said already that obviously Eddie Redmayne, Johnny Depp, the fat guy, the sister, those people, they're all going to be in it. But he also said Ezra Miller will be in the next one. He seemed
That's
pretty
cool.
dead to me.
Well, I thought so, and there was something at the end where you saw like a little bit of it
I read
left
about
over.
that. I didn't notice it.
I noticed that, but then it just kind of like, I don't remember if it faded away or just kind of drifted off. But so that could help him, or he could come back in like a flashback or some kind of like haunting Grindelwald in his something. I don't know. But I really liked Ezra Miller in this. I think he's
Yeah, no,
definitely
he's
one of
good.
the highlights.
I
of
thought
the
he was
movie.
really good. I liked Colin Farrell.
Well, see, I liked him, and I liked this whole like 20s kind of cop, corrupt cop story that's going on. And again, was all more interesting to me than the main story of the film. And it's just kind of like, I don't care about it. This is kind of fun and cute, but like I'm more interested in this gritty.
But I think that I think you really do have to kind of give J.K. Rowling the benefit of the doubt in the ability of her to craft an overarching story.
Sure.
Because I think if you look at, say you forget your knowledge of what it happens in books 2 through 7 of Harry Potter, and you look at just that first book, and you're introduced to these 3 little kids, and in the background there's all this stuff about maybe Voldemort's rising to power, and it'd be like Hitler coming back,
Sure.
and this and that, and all these things that are happening behind the scenes that they don't really see, and they don't really understand what's going on until the end. If you were to see that movie or read that book, you're like, I want to know more about that.
I agree.
But by the end, you want to know more about Harry.
I agree, but I was much more invested in Harry, Ron, and Hermione at the end of book 1 than I am in Newt or
I think
whatever
I would agree, because
whatever her name was. I can't remember.
Dina,
Maybe.
I think so.
But like I was much more invested in the 3 of them than I was in any of the main characters of this movie. I think that's my big, like, I'm not sitting here going, like, I want to know more about the world. I really couldn't care less if Newt
I
comes
just-
back, or if the
I
girl
don't-
comes back.
I don't know
or
if I couldn't care.
Dan Fogler comes back.
Uh,
Even though I liked them I like Dan Fogler.
I don't.
in
Well,
it.
the thing is, I don't know where you go with any of them.
Exactly. I think
I
that's,
don't know when you say that the next movie takes place in Paris. I don't understand how the three that are in America even get there.
Mhm.
What is going to be the motivating factor, and then how does that play into whatever the story is?
And I'm sure she has this all mapped out, which
Yeah.
she said she's mapped this all
I mean,
out.
she's a novelist. You would think she would.
But it's just I don't care about the main characters enough to be. I'm excited to see more of the wizarding world.
Yeah.
I don't care if I ever see these characters again.
Well, the thing is, I also read David Heyman, the producer. I read something with him where he explained that in future installments, maybe not necessarily the second one, but in future of these 5,
Mhm.
that Newt Scamander won't necessarily be the main focus of the movie.
Okay.
So, I mean, it looks like they have acknowledged and they know that what they're building doesn't necessarily have to always mainly factor him. So, big question for you. My biggest issue with the movie
Mhm.
is the way that they reveal that Graves is Grindelwald in the movie.
I was just going to ask you about that too.
And not even, we'll talk about Depp and his brief performance,
Mhm.
but for me, the biggest issue is if you don't know enough about these things where you don't really understand what Grindelwald is, and at the beginning, yes, they show some newspaper clippings, I don't feel like they do a good enough job with it really leading up to that big reveal
Mhm.
of making anyone that doesn't know what's going on care about it
I agree.
at all. Like,
'cause-
there should have been at least one scene where they talk really in depth about why Grindelwald is someone to be feared.
I mean, I haven't read the books since they came out, roughly, or watched Deathly Hallows since it was released in theaters. And so Grindelwald, I was like, that name sounds familiar, but I couldn't tell you who he was or what he did. And you see a little bit of that at the beginning. But yeah, I don't think there's enough of that. You get mentions of it, but there's so many other wizarding names and stuff thrown around that I'm like, it was Grindelwald, and there's some other name in Graves, and this person, and that was just like, okay. But is he as big as Voldemort? Because nobody seems really that scared of him.
Mhm.
And I would have liked to have just seen Colin Farrell be his own character. Like, I kept waiting for Colin Farrell to be like one of his followers.
Yeah.
And then he was working for Grindelwald and knows to look something. But it's kind of weird to take Colin Farrell
'Cause-
and reveal him to be Johnny Depp, which I thought was like a weird switch. Because I really enjoyed Colin Farrell in this movie.
Yeah, and I mean, unless he decides to, for some reason, transition back to Graves, we'll never see him again.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a big loss.
Whereas if they kept him around to maybe use him to,
Honestly, I mean, if they had just, like, he was slightly distorting his face and then his hair, like, turned blonde, he would have been better off, in my opinion, just having Colin Farrell be Grindelwald.
yeah,
Like, I mean, we talked about if you go back a couple weeks ago when it came out that Depp was going to be in the second one, we didn't necessarily know that he was going to be in this one.
you'd speculated.
Yeah.
that. But I figured it would almost be like a
It seemed like the kind
like a
of thing
Dr.
that-
Claw at the end of Inspect. You just kind of like see him in the shadows, like, okay, now I need to come out and do something, or
Yeah.
my army's whatever.
Did it become very clear to you from the second they showed in the newspaper from behind? I was like, okay, well, that probably is Depp. They show him from behind, looking out of the balcony of like a mansion, and it was the
Oh.
blonde hair, and I was like, well, that's probably Depp.
Gotcha. But see, then it transitions pretty, I think, quickly to Colin Farrell, doesn't it?
Right? No,
And
I
who
did.
looks-
I
has
did.
the same-
I never thought that they were the same person.
No,
I'm not
I
saying
didn't
that.
either.
I just thought that's probably Depp. We're probably going to see him at some point at the end.
But I don't think there's enough built up about Grindelwald, or I think you could have shown Depp from the get-go and shown him as the big villain, and then it would have made more of an impact of like, oh, he is this person.
Yeah, because
And that way you could have set up
the
from the
way
beginning
that
that these are two separate people.
the way that it plays out, it is supposed to be especially because it's like what I always say. The problem with Star Trek Into Darkness, and sorry, minor spoilers,
Mm-hmm.
when they reveal that the character is Khan, it means nothing
Correct.
to anyone. And the problem with this is the way that they reveal that it's Grindelwald. I feel like you don't get that it means anything to them, and it is more displayed as it's actually Johnny Depp. you
Yeah.
know? But like that wasn't surprising because they announced that he was going to be in it.
Like it feels like
2
we're
weeks before
supposed to
it
care about
happened.
the actor, not the character.
Right, and we don't because nobody cares about Johnny Depp anymore.
I mean, I do, but not in something like this. Not
Right.
when I'm enjoying Colin Farrell for 2 hours
Right.
and suddenly be like, oh, Colin Farrell's actually Johnny Depp. And I'm like, is this Dr. Parnassus? Or is this, like,
Yeah.
it seemed like it was playing it up more for the actor than for the character. And I think that's the bigger... And it's like, you can change your face, but not your hair color or like your hairstyle. Why would you not, if you're hiding yourself? Like, that seemed kind of a...
Yeah.
But what did you think as Johnny Depp in his, like, 2 minutes on screen, if that?
Now,
Okay.
just a minor thought.
Sure.
There is a chance that we could get more Colin Farrell in one way.
Okay.
Just like in the fourth movie, when you find out that Mad Eye Moody the whole time has actually been Barty Crouch's son or whatever, and the real Mad Eye Moody, you're using Polyjuice Potion, and the real Mad Eye Moody was in a thing. Maybe the real Graves really is a good Auror, and we'll see him as more of a good Auror
That could
moving
be.
forward, which would be interesting and good. And they could easily do it if they feel like the perception of Colin Farrell's performance was well reviewed.
Yeah.
But anyway, what were you saying?
What did you think of Johnny Depp in his...
It was so brief,
Mm-hmm.
but it seemed just on the surface, and maybe it's just because I had preconceived notions, and we'll see what he really delivers in a full. It seemed like my biggest fear for it.
Really?
It seemed a little bit like he was just doing something goofy.
See, I thought it was a little more grounded than, like, his goofy...
I don't know. It's too quick to really have
Sure.
a judgment, to be honest, for me. One way or the other. I'm going to hold my take on it until I see a movie's worth of performance.
That's
out of
fair.
it. Yeah. I don't know. He doesn't excite me. I'm excited for more of... I forgot how much I liked just, like, the Wizarding World of this universe, you know? The cinematic version of it.
Yeah.
Because obviously I've been a fan of it all, but it was good. I mean, I still don't know if we need 4 more. I don't know what you lead up to.
Well, I think that's one of the other problems. Like, you know, you had a clear... They've captured Grindelwald at the end of this. It's not like at the end of Sorcerer's Stone where it's... He's still out there. What's going to happen? There's still this... It's just sort of like... It has this bookend on it.
I do.
And this very sweet bow at the end.
Yeah.
With the bakery. And you're just kind of like, okay, well... That was a fun side story. It wasn't really necessary, but it was a fun trip back to the Wizarding World. It wasn't worth the buildup of here's the American houses and here is this and here's that. And so I'm just kind of left going, oh, it was fun, but it wasn't...
Yeah, I totally
I'm not
agree.
begging for 4 more movies.
But I still think back to, if you just look at the first and even the second Harry Potter, they sort of established Voldemort. And you know that they have, multiple years left of school. But besides that, I think, like, you read it and you're like, okay, how are they going to have 7 of these adventures? And honestly, it isn't until probably when David Yates took over, not the film series, but it's somewhere around just after Goblet of Fire, when you hit Order of Phoenix, where it's like, okay, I can see how this is a story that launches me through the next 4
Sure.
of these. And hopefully they reach something like that in the next one.
But you had characters that were going to carry you.
You care about the characters, yes.
I don't know who's going to carry. Like, I mean, yes, we know through casting who's going to be in it, but, like, there's no clear... This is the character I need to latch onto, and this is the character... And I was thinking about this, too, kind of...
Dumbledore.
We haven't seen him.
I know, but he would be the character if he really becomes the focus of this moving forward, and it's a great performance and it's something that we care about. Then he is a character that you would want to see.
Sure,
forward.
But I would have then. I hate to make this comparison, but it reminds me kind of like a Force Awakens, where it's like you made us care about these new characters, sort of by pairing them with characters we'd loved. And there's not really any... It's just sort of, here's some characters, here's the end of their story, but be on board because we got a whole series of movies coming after it. Oh, we didn't talk about Lestrange is somehow involved in this too.
Right.
Which I'm curious to see where that goes, which I imagine we'll get more when we hear about Dumbledore and...
Yeah, well, I read just today that apparently the actress that they show the picture of is... Zoe Kravitz, who has been in things.
Okay.
and she's like going to play a bigger part in the next one. They said as whatever Lestrange they said she was.
Yeah.
So that's interesting to see how they get, because the Lestrange family obviously has like a very dark history.
I mean,
we learn about.
There's definitely cool little breadcrumbs like sprinkled in this movie of like things that are gonna go places.
And there's some nice other like little call outs, because they talk specifically about Albus Dumbledore and all of that, but I liked the whole like combative, Hogwarts versus the American school. I thought that was a nice little touch, flourish.
I like the back and forth of like nomads, we call them muggles, and the little callbacks, or just seeing the house elves again, or all that kind of
Yeah, it was
the American version of.
I didn't realize that the one I forget his name now, but the one like troll guy in the little like speakeasy bar was Ron Perlman.
I didn't either. I saw his name pop. I saw Ron Perlman's name in the credits, and I was like, "Who was Ron Perlman?" And then when the list scrolled up to whatever his name was, I turned to my girlfriend. I was like, "Was that the guy? Was that the dude in the speakeasy or the bar?" And she's like, "I think that was his name."
Yeah, that was cool.
I like that whole underground scene, like everything about this world. I just love. It's just the story of the movie. I'm kind of.
Yep. But we're gonna get more. We're gonna get more in 2 years' time, November 17th, 2018. Okay. So, stay tuned for that.
Get excited.
Maybe we'll be here still to talk about it.
I hope so.
I would think so. I mean, I don't have any plans.
No, I'm not going anywhere.
I'll be free that weekend.
Yeah.
So, what did you think of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them? Did you have any last thoughts on it?
No, I think it's as much shit as I've been giving it in this review. I think it's fun. I think it's worth seeing. Okay. Especially if you're a fan of the series, of the franchise.
Yeah. And my last takeaway would be, and I agree, I don't know where you go with the character, but I really did think that the Kowalski or whatever his name was very entertaining.
Yeah.
Like he was one of the things about this movie that I was like, you seriously got that guy to be in, like, you know what I mean? And it was like,
he was one of the weird parts of the trailer. It's like, why is
stood
he
out? Like,
yeah.
It was like a really bright spot in this movie, which was shocking.
I was more attached to him and the blonde sister than I was to either of the two main characters.
And really, if you discount the one chapter a book appearance of the Dursleys, he's by far, in a way, the biggest Muggle character in any of these that she's ever written.
Yeah.
And he was really good. Anyway, what did you think of the movie? Tweet at us. I'm at Stonks.
I'm at Rich Belson. The channel is on Twitter at OABeer_official. And you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/overabeer. We're on Instagram at over_a_beer. And of course, right here on YouTube at youtube.com/overabeer. I think it's going to wrap things up for this Over a Beer movie review. Check back in about a month's time when we'll have our Rogue One review up.
Oh.
So stay tuned for that. Definitely excited about that one.
Still can't get tickets.
I know. I can't either.
I don't understand.
It's weird. I've got alerts set for every version of the film coming out on my Fandango.
Doesn't make sense.
So.
Anyway.
Check back then. That'll wrap things up for today. So until next time, drink up.
And butter me up.